good morning everyone. My name is Alan and today is Introduction to Cocktails. So why cocktails? Why do I know about cocktails? I was a bartender in my late teens and early 20s and worked in a number of cocktail bars, and by the time I left and decided to pursue a different career, I was a bar manager in a fairly good cocktail bar in the southwest of Scotland. We ran cocktail competitions, I wrote the menus for the bar, and I've got a bit of experience. I've done some courses as well. So what is a cocktail? Cocktail is any alcoholic drink. We call them a mocktail if it was non-alcoholic. Any alcoholic drink with more than 2 ingredients. And when we say 2, we're including ice as an ingredient or a garnish as well. So lager and lime counts. So today's aim is to introduce the topic of cocktail making, and the learning outcomes are learners will recognise and recall the main glasses and equipment used for cocktails, and that will be tested, glasses and equipment, and learners will recognise some cocktail archetypes, also will be tested at the end. So when that comes up, please take notes. So before we move on to the next slide, a little bit about cocktails. Like I said, any drink really with more than 1 ingredient. So I'll go around the room, if you can introduce yourself and let me know if you like cocktails. Do you have a favourite one?
My name's Dan. I'm not really a cocktail drinker, but I have had them in the past. I can't remember what they're called. I just bought them.
Fair enough.
Hi Brendan. Yeah, I like cocktails. My favourite one's mojito.
Yeah, I'm Daniel. I like cocktails as well. I had one at a Christmas party. I can't remember what it was called. It was like a very little glass, had like some sort of fancy little fruit in it, pink in colour. Yeah.
Could be a Cornstar Martini or a Fresh
That's the
Martini.
one. Also, that's it.
There
Yeah,
you go.
that's it. That was it. That was
The fruit will be a passion fruit.
That was it. Passion fruit. That was it. Yeah. What's I say? That's it. Right, pass that test.
Normally comes with a little shot on the side.
That's it. Yeah.
Prosecco.
Yeah. That's it.
So my name's Tim, and I'm more of a lager now, I'm afraid.
Ever had a cocktail?
If you class Bacardi and Coke,
Bacardi Coke is a cocktail.
then that would be my cocktail of choice.
There you go.
I'm a gin man.
Gin man? Okay,
Yes.
so how do you take it?
Slow gin. So
Slow gin.
50ml measure of slow gin, 50% of like a ginger ale
Okay.
type mixer,
Yeah.
a bit of lime, ice of course.
Okay. On the rocks then. So some basic terminology that you're probably familiar with. On the rocks means with ice. Straight up means without. Long is in a tall glass, usually with ice and usually with something to what we call lengthening the drink, which would be Coca-Cola, soda water, or fruit juice, something like that. Most cocktails are referred to by their primary base ingredient. So your cocktails would be a slow gin would be the base. Cornstar Martini is a vodka base. So what did you say? Mojito, rum base. Lime and lime would be a lager base, but it's not really. That's stretching things. But we'll have a look at some of the glassware. So first, the martini glass. Believe it or not, named because it's what we serve a martini in. We'll get to what that is later. But a lot of these glasses are interchangeable. They've developed over time, and a lot of the glasses take the name from a popular drink that's served in them. The coupe, or champagne saucer. Quite often you'll use a martini glass instead, depending on the bar, but if you're doing it at home, for a home bar, they're interchangeable. A snifter or brandy balloon. It's quite good for rocks drinks if you want to look a little bit more fancy, drinks that are over ice, or just straight up as well. Quite good for whiskies and just straight drinks. A hurricane glass, named for the cocktail, the hurricane, one of my personal favourites. Lots of rum, lots of fruit. Quite often you might see a pina colada served in it, but technically a pina colada glass will have a longer stem. A highball. A highball is what you generally serve your rum and cokes in, and a highball is named after the type of drink. A highball is a spirit with a mixer, usually with a fruit garnish. So a rum and coke with a bit of lime in it. There's 3 ingredients. It's got a garnish. It's how it's usually served. Cocktail maker would classify that as a highball. If you dropped in a sugar cube and crushed that down at the bottom, we call it a Cuba Libre. Just sweetens it a little bit more. And an old fashioned. An old fashioned is your traditional whiskey glass. So if you're having a shot of whiskey or something like that, rather than a shooter, be a nice glass. You can put a couple of cubes of ice in it. So there's a drink called an old fashioned. There's a drink called a highball. There's a drink called a hurricane. A drink called a martini. Champagne is a drink, or a champagne saucer, and brandy balloon also a drink. There are more glasses, but this is kind of the basics. You can use most of these for most popular cocktails. So remember a few glass names because it'll come up in the quiz at the end. Next up, we've got some basic cocktail making equipment. So I have brought with me from home this. So cocktails are usually mixed drinks, so there will be a mixer of some description. And this is my mixer. This is called a Boston mixer or Boston shaker. The other popular type is called a cobbler, and it's a 3-part mixer with a strainer built in. The advantage of the Boston is it's got a glass that's separate and it's toughened. You can take a lot of shaking, you can see what's in it. The advantage of the 3-part mixer is it's more compact and it's easier to use. Most professionals will use these. Most home bartenders will use the 3-part mixer. The idea being that you would fill the can with ice and you'd make the drink in the glass section. You'd put them together, give it a tap, shake it, and then the ice will chill the drink, and then from the glass you pour it using a variety of strainers into the glassware of choice. So there's a number of ways to pour. You can pour it just by splitting and letting it fall through. You would never serve a drink with the ice you've shaken it with, it breaks it up. So you'd always use fresh ice for the glass. If you're using a strainer, we have a Hawthorne strainer here, remember the name. And it's spring loaded, so you can push it to control the speed of the flow and prevent the ice coming out. If you're having a martini that's been shaken, you don't want ice shards in the drink, so you double strain by using a fine strainer as well, pour that through into the glass. And when making the drink, we have what we call a jigger, which is your measure. It can be a variety of designs. This one's a double and a single in one. So I'll pass these around, you can have a look. So jigger, shaker, Hawthorne, fine strainer, and last of all, bar spoon. Bar spoon is a long spoon ideal for stirring a drink from either end. It's usually spun in the center. It's good for pouring liqueurs down for layering, and the circle at the end helps with that too, for balancing when you're making shooters or layered drinks. And the spoon itself is a measure of 10 milliliters. Now most drinks will come in defined measures of 25 ml or 1 ounce if you're an American. An ounce is basically 30 mils, so long as everything scales up in proportion, the drink shouldn't change. Now a little bit more about preparation of a cocktail. When making a cocktail, the first step is to get your glassware. I had a look at the glasses already. And usually you want to chill the glass. 2 ways to do it: put it in the freezer or the fridge beforehand. But that takes up a lot of fridge space, and in bars they tend not to do that. So what they'll do is they'll fill the glass with ice, then pour water or soda into the glass. And they'll sit it there before they make the drink. By the time they finish making the drink, they'll tip that out, the glass is now cold. It works even if it's straight out of the dishwasher. The next thing would be to get your ingredients together. Put the ingredients into your glass, put your ice into the shaker, and if it's a stirred drink, you just pour the ingredients straight into the shaker, take your bar spoon, stir it. So a stirred martini would be served like that, or if not, as I demonstrated before, you combine the parts and you give it a shake. When serving a drink that is served over ice, so long or on the rocks, examples would be a Cuba Libre, a Hurricane, or a martini on the rocks. The idea with a cocktail is that the ice is there to keep the drink cool, not to dilute the drink. So more ice is better. If you put 2 or 3 ice cubes in, they'll melt faster and you end up with a watery drink. If you fill the glass entirely with ice, the ice will melt slower, keeping the drink colder for longer. And in the bar, you're not going to get more drink because I've pre-measured it in the mixer, so they'll pour what's here into the glass. The glass size they select will be determined by how big the drink is. So a martini glass we looked at before usually will hold 5 shots. We'll make a drink with 4, so there's a gap at the top. If you want a long drink, it's probably 5 or 6 shots, but the glass will be designed to take that drink with the ice full. So if you ask for no ice, you'll just get half a glass. I don't now some basic cocktail archetypes. So 3 or 5, depending on how you want to look at these, but you'll see some similarities. These are all straight drinks, which can be served on the rocks as a variation. So the daiquiri is rum, lime, and sugar. Variety of types of daiquiri. You've got frozen daiquiris, in which case you take the rum, lime, and sugar, you mix it with crushed ice or put it in a blender with ice, and serve it with the ice included. The daiquiri straight up would usually be served in the martini glass. The daiquiri can be served over the ice, and then it'd be daiquiri on the rocks. And from that base, you can build a multitude of drinks. A mojito is arguably a daiquiri because it's got rum, lime, sugar, and mint. So really, a mojito is a long mint daiquiri. It's not really any difference. Most drinks can be built from these 4 or 5 archetypes. The martini is very simple. It's gin and vermouth with a garnish. Dirty martinis, sweet martinis, twist martinis, and a variety of other things. And because of the popularity of vodka nowadays, you get vodka martinis where you just substitute in vodka rather than gin. The French martini is vodka based, but most gin based drinks you can derive from a martini. The Manhattan is essentially a martini where you've substituted in bourbon for the gin. We call it Manhattan, and it's usually made with sweet vermouth, but you could order a dry Manhattan and then you use dry vermouth. Call it a Rob Roy and you use Scotch instead of bourbon. You can build a whole host of drinks from that base. So really, it's the same drink. The same goes here with the sidecar and the margarita. Nowadays, the margarita is probably more well known, more popular. The sidecar came first, and it's brandy, orange liqueur, and lemon. And the margarita is tequila, orange liqueur, and lemon. And again, the difference really is sidecar needs a bit of sweetness, and usually the rim of the glass would be coated in sugar. The margarita, as anybody who's had one, usually the rim of the glass is coated in salt. Works nicely with the tequila. But again, it's the same drink. Substitute in our other additional things and get orange margarita would be a straight up one because of the orange liqueur. You could have a lime margarita where you swap out the lemon juice for lime juice. You could have any variety of fruit flavors. Pineapple margarita, you just add some pineapple juice to it. From this basic card, you can make most popular drinks, or you can refer to drinks as something. So a bartender in a cocktail bar might ask you what drinks you'd like and use this to compile something new for you, or you might tell him you want something and explain it to him in his head. He'll probably go, oh, that's like a Manhattan with X instead of Y, or that's like a martini, but instead of this you're using that. And usually from that kind of structure, most cocktail bartenders will be able to rattle off a couple hundred cocktails at a push. And where to learn about cocktails? I have brought in 2 books. One is a fairly bog standard cocktail book you'll be able to pick up in W.H. Smith, something similar for around £15. Most of these will have some sort of introduction at the beginning about the history of cocktails, what are cocktails, and then some recipes, guide on how to make them. If you want to take it a little bit more seriously, there's the Difference Guide. This is the 6th edition. This is back from my bartending days. I think we're now on the 17th edition, and it's around £35. It's a pretty good book, it's very comprehensive. This one has over 2,000 cocktails in it. That's not bad. So anybody who wants to get into cocktails, that would be a resource I'd highly recommend. Their website is also very good. And while you're looking at that, we have a short video to watch and a quiz. So if you can take one and pass it around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How many cocktails you made there? Just look.
Oh, a couple hundred.
100.
I used to work in a bar, remember?
Oh, cool shit. So about really drunk out of it. Couple hundred.
More than that. So I'll play the video, and if you could fill in the quiz with what you remember, and I think the last question is based on the video.
Welcome to Drinks Made Easy, your beverage resource guide. My name is Masterson, Paul Masterson, your host and resident mixologist, and an occasional neighborhood spy. This episode, we're taking a look at the Vesper, one of my personal favorite drinks. Now, this martini was the original James Bond martini when Ian Fleming wrote his first book, Casino Royale. Now, Bond would later switch to the vodka martini, shaken, not stirred, but this is a truly fantastic drink that I highly recommend you try. In this drink, we use Quinola Blanc, which is a French aperitif wine which gives the Vesper a citrus zest and a smoothness unique to the Vesper. For this drink, you will also need vodka, gin, Quinola Blanc, ice, a lemon for the lemon wedge or the lemon twist garnish, your jigger or pour spout, and your strainer. So if you have these ingredients and your taste buds, let's start mixing. To make your Vesper, you're going to start with 3 ounces of gin. Next, you'll add 1 ounce of vodka. And then, to top it off, you'll give 1 ounce of Lillet Blanc. Give 15 to 20 shakes, or until the metal part of your shaker is ice cold. Use your strainer. And bless the glass with a twist of lemon. Add. You have yourself a Vesper.
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring in some booze and try a drink. So that's the best I could do. But are there any questions? In that case, we can go through the quiz. I'll tell you all the answers if you want. Everybody's ready? Okay, so three cocktail glasses. We've got martini, coupe, snifter, old fashioned, highball, hurricane. Has anybody got anything different from what's here?
Champagne glass.
Champagne glass, that works, yeah. 3 items of cocktail equipment: jigger, bar spoon, shaker, Boston or Colford, strainers, Hawthorne.
I'll put glass, but
Glass is fine, yeah, there's Boston glass and a Boston can,
Yeah,
that works. And what spirit is used in a daiquiri?
Rum.
Well, correct. What spirit is in a sidecar?
Did not have a clue. I do now, brandy.
And in a margarita?
Tequila.
Okay, and finally, is a Vesper a martini or a Manhattan?
Great. I would say martini.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say martini. Only because it's got more.
It is a martini.
gin.
It has no whiskey. It's gin and vodka.
I was looking at the glass and poured it in.
It is a martini glass too, yeah. Wonderful. Thank you very much for your kind attendance.